Okay, hey, good evening. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you tuning in for the first time, my name is Vincent Marzulli. I'm president and CEO of Marzulli and Sons slash Mars award-winning service company, and I have been for the past 40 years. Actually, I've been in this plumbing, heating, cooling industry for well over 50 years. I don't know how I did that because I'm only 28 in my own head. Okay. But I'm also known, how do I say that? AKA, also known as Vinny from Philly. Okay. So, have you ever seen that movie? My Cousin Vinny? The classic line, the two Utes, the judge says, did you say Utes? Like, what is a Ute? Okay, and you know, it's like a great classic movie, and it's like over the top funny. And matter of fact, the judge is Herman Munster without his Frankenstein makeup on. Okay, so he's the judge. Anyway, it was a great movie, and if you haven't seen it, you might want to go check it out. You get a whole bunch of laughs. It's one of them movies that just people watch two, three, four, five, 7 times over and over and over again. Okay, and actually, when that movie came out, it came out about 30 years ago, and at that particular time, I was traveling around the country speaking and training, and that's when everyone started to give me a call. They started calling me Cousin Vinny from Philly, and they still do. Actually, I didn't choose that name. They tagged me with that, and that became my handle for the last 30 years. Okay, so just remember, my name is Vince, but you can call me Vinny. Just remember, my cousin Vinny. Matter of fact, I'm not going to get offended because I'm not politically correct, and this is not a politically correct session. Let me put it that way, okay? So let me get back. This is the third day of the mini series. It's solution tips to start and operate a successful business, and I'll be presenting these tips for the next couple of days. Got 2 more days left in the row, starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want, you can probably go back and catch up on the previous sessions that I did the other day and the day before. They're still up online. And these sessions, I should say, these sessions are being brought to you by yours truly, Vinny from Mars, MARZ, award-winning systems, or AWS, also known as Mars, AWS, Mars award-winning systems. That's my company where I do consulting and coaching services. Anyhow, let me get back. Let me start out like this. Okay, let me just start out by saying this is like a disclosure that I really need to start with every time I speak. And it's basically, number one, I am not a certified attorney. By no means am I an attorney. I'm not an accountant, and I'm not a certified accountant, and I'm not a certified, um, money management financial advisor, let me put it that way. And number four, guess what? I am not Al Pacino. Okay, I had to say that because, today everybody calls me Al, and it's just a joke, all right? But anyway, I just want you to know that. Let me get back. Anytime that, you're starting up a business or running a business, you should always seek the advice and counsel from those that are professionals. Whenever you're making decisions that are going to affect your business and or your life, you should always be speaking to a professional. Okay, now I happen to be a professional, an expert. Let me put it that way. I'm an expert. Uh, Anyway, so much of this information that I'm going to be sharing with you, listen, you already know what it is. You've already heard it before. It may be familiar. You may be familiar with it. You just may already know it. So that takes me back to the saying that I've shared with you for the last couple of days, and it's a very simple, very profound proverb that goes like this: the amount of new things that we need to learn are less important than the old things that we need to be reminded of. Got it? The amount of new things that we need to learn are really very less important than the old things that we need to be reminded of. The things that we need to be reminded of, things that we already know, things that we've failed to implement in our daily business every day. Okay? Now, that being said, you always hear me say, what? Pay attention to the details. Why? Because it's the smallest thing, the very smallest things that we fail to be aware of that'll take us down, causing us to lose money, causing us to lose the money that we work so hard for. You know, we brought money in to pay our bills, and you know, put a roof over our children's heads and food on the table. Okay, and that's okay. But having to spend that same money on an attorney, okay, and attorney fees, as you know, that's a whole nother thing. That's like crazy, so to speak, if you don't have to do it. Because having to hire an attorney to represent you in the law of court, in the court of law, I should say, for a lawsuit, is like, you know what that is? That's like money in and then money out. And guess what? No money when it's all said and done. Okay? And that doesn't sound very good. So, when you look at the amount of time that you lose, taking off half the day, money to go for parking, okay, you're losing good money. When you go to court, you're losing even more money. And the bottom line to that is what? The worst part, so to speak, the worst part of it all, guess what? There's not even any kind of guarantee that you're going to win. Okay, now I'll tell you what that's all about. These happen to be the consequences of what? Not paying attention to the details. That's what this is about. And in the end, it's money out of your pocket. And it's a waste of your life, time. Okay? That's the way that works. Now, that being said, every business needs to have what I refer to as a structured invoice, which includes fine print. Okay, now that's a very necessary thing, and the necessary thing that needs to go along with that invoice needs to be what? It needs to be, the fine print. That's what needs to go along with it. All right? Now, the more organized that you are with your paperwork, the better it's going to be when you're building your business. That's just the way it works. Especially if you have to go to court. If you have to go to small claims court before a judge, guess what? Again, we don't have a whole lot of time to speak on this subject, but pay attention to the details, because this is like a snapshot of what I'm suggesting your invoice should look like, okay? If you got to go to court, you better be prepared. You better be paying attention to the details. So what you need it to look like is, and I'm going to point out some of these major key factors that need to be included to comply with the criteria, information governing HICPA. That's the Home Improvement Consumer Protection Act. Okay, those particular laws, they're home improvement consumer laws that protect the consumer. And they're currently on the books, and they're the ones that you haven't even known about. Maybe you're just totally ignoring them. They're the ones that are going to, you're going to meet up with, okay, because they're waiting for you. They're waiting for you down at the small claims court. They're waiting for you to be enforced when you get to small claims court. Okay? That's when they're going to be enforced, and that's when you're going to know that what I was talking about happened to be the truth. While you're laughing now, you won't be laughing then. Okay? So let's get started with the basic structure. This is the basic structure. Okay, when you're looking at an invoice, you got to go to the very top of the page. So like this is one of my, it just happened to be sitting here. At the very top of the page, this is where you're going to put your, your logo. It could even go to the right or left side, but it usually goes located at the top of the page. That's where your company logo will need to be, and after that, you want to have a brief description of the type of services that you provide. You might even want to have a slogan or a tagline. Say, for example, my company, we changed the name of the company from Marzulli and Sons to Mars Award-Winning Service Company. And my tagline happened to be service out of this world. Get it? Mars, like the planet Mars, but only it's M-A-R with a Z at the end. Award-winning service company. Service that we provided, services out of this world. That was like a subliminal message that we incorporated into our marketing and advertising. Okay, so obviously, going back, you need to have your phone number and your email address, because we're living in a date when the email addresses are very, very, very important. That along with a website information. And then you might want to have the original date of the estimate, like when you arrive, and even the arrival time. I had that in my invoices. That kind of helped, all right? So the basics then after that are the lines for the customer's name and the customer's address, name, address, telephone number, zip code, that type of stuff, along with their email address. And if they have a website, you might want to even grab that as well, okay? You might want to write that down. And this is just a starting point. This is only a starting point. And eventually all of this information, actually what I did was we would take that information every day and we would just transport it and put it into our software, into our computer, so that I had, statistics. And that's exactly what you're going to do. Eventually you're going to start moving all that information that you're retrieving into software that'll be able to give you statistics, database, spreadsheet, statistics for marketing, etc. Okay? However, you're going to need a whole lot more than what I just explained to you in order for you to be compliant with the State Attorney General's office. Now, in order for you to comply with the consumer protection laws, if you ever end up with a customer dispute, so to speak, or a problem, and you end up in small claims court, like, it'll be one of the first things that the judge is going to ask you. One of the first things that they're going to ask is, provide us with the, what? Provide us with the information that you have available. Let's see what you have. And the judge will order you to, defend yourself. Show me the paperwork. Let's see if you've done your due diligence. That's what he's going to say. Let's see what it's all about. Now, what I always say is what? Pay attention to the details. And it's in the fine print, the language of the fine print. That's what's going to become your safeguard. Believe me, possibly even reviewing that language with your customer prior to having to go to court, small claims court. That may just keep you out of court. Listen, I'm telling you, this is the truth. It worked for me for 40 years. Hello, okay? But if you have to go to court, it'll be in your best favor, so to speak, with the judge, that your paperwork is well organized. You've dotted all the I's and you've crossed all the T's, okay? And may just be, in your favor to win when the judge takes a look at that. You know why? Because you have done what he refers to as your due diligence. That's a key word when you get into the courtroom. Now, at this junction, I mentioned prior that I ran my company for 40 years as the president and CEO. Guess what? Number one, I was never ever sued, not by anyone. I never was sued at all in a court of law. Never. Not even once. Two, guess what? I never had to sue anybody. I never had to sue anybody to collect my money. And you know why I didn't have to sue them? Because number one, I had fine print on my invoice. And number two, I had some negotiation skills that were able to help me to maneuver my way around. That's an important factor too. And down the road, I might even be teaching on that. But to be to be completely transparent with you, okay, let me put it this way. I've been to court. I have been to court, but only as what they refer to as an expert witness, okay? Now, I've been an expert witness on Channel 10 News, NBC News, along with PBS, Channel 39 News, as a so-called expert on these particular subjects having to do with consumer protection, etc., and invoices, etc. Okay, now that I'm like at the point in my life where I have successfully retired, believe me, I retired from the hands-on operations of my business: plumbing, heating, drain cleaning, bathroom remodeling, diverse home services. That's the kind of stuff that we did. All right, that's the kind of work that we did. Now that I'm out of that business, guess what? I'm no longer competing with you. You're not my competition. You're not my competition anymore, okay? I'm not competing with you. So I was sitting back and I was thinking about it. I thought, you know what? What I should do is share a few things of value that I had to offer. You know, years ago, I would never share this kind of information with you because you were my competition. Now, I may have shared some because I wanted to keep you out of jail, or I wanted to keep you from going to court. I don't want you to lose your shirt, even though I was competing with you. But for the most part, I would never share with you my secrets that were taking me to the top, you know, of success in my particular field. So what I refer to that is what? $1 million advice for free. That's what I'm giving you, $1 million nuggets for free. Okay, all you have to do is listen. You got to write it down, too, and then you've got to implement it. Number three, what good is it if I gave you a check for $1 million and you're carrying it around in your pocket? Okay, are you a millionaire? And the answer to that question is no. Wrong answer. You're not a millionaire. The only way you would become a millionaire is if you cash that check. So you have to implement it. You have to execute it. Then put the money in your pocket. Put the money in your bank. Okay? So, okay, now that I kind of got past some of the reason that I'm referred to as an expert, you know, I kind of get that out of the way a little bit. I want to take you back to the invoice. All right, and if you really wanted to, like I shared with everybody the other day, before I go on a little further, you could always go into my website. It's MARZ, like zebra, Mars, like the planet, but only with a Z, MARZ, service, SERVICE.com. Okay, now in there's a link that'll take you to, like history of the company. It will take you to the articles. It will take you to, you know, give you a snapshot of who I am and what I was all about. It'll actually show you all the accolades and the things that we achieved along the way, and how I reached the pinnacle of success in the, you know, sight in the eyes of my peers. And anyway, that's why we changed the name of the company to Award-Winning Service Company, because we had so many awards from different areas and different people. But I don't want to get into that, and I was trying to expedite it. That's why I asked you to go in there and check it out, so I don't have to go into all this about me. Okay, so let's get back to the invoice. In addition to this basic information, the invoice needs to consist of a start date and a proposed completion date, which needs to be filled out prior to starting the work. Okay, now these are not These are not my guidelines. These are the Attorney General's guidelines. Okay, so you just need to understand that they have specific criteria. Now, another thing, part of their criteria is you've got to have a fixed, agreed price that needs to be stated on the invoice prior to you doing any kind of work. And if you do any additional work, you need to have that authorized as well as a separate addendum. This is just the way that the consumer protection law works. Now, you've got to have written on your invoice a notice of cancellation clause. And that's actually apart from the individual notice of cancellation forms that you are supposed to be providing to your customer. That's the Attorney General requires you to print this exact specific language from the Consumer Protection Act to be included, okay, which informs the consumer that they have 3 days to cancel the transaction. But it must be printed in their language on your invoice, okay? Now, along with other certain stipulations are required by the AG's office, like the exact language needs to be printed. There are requirements that have to do with the lettering and the exact fonts, the sizes necessary to be compliant. And if you don't do that, that invoice is going to become null and void. And these are the loopholes, what I refer to as the loopholes. These are those little small details that are going to legalistically get you. They're going to render your invoice totally null and void. Okay, completely null and void, causing you to lose in the court of law. That's what this is all about. Now, again, AG, Attorney General's office, okay, they have these strict guidelines that need to be followed, and they need to be followed for doing work with individuals from other countries that don't speak English or understand English. They have a whole segment for that I'm not going to get into right now, okay, but I just want to touch on it. Now, also printed on the invoice, you must include the phone number of the PA State Attorney General's office, their telephone number, 717 number. Then you also have to have printed on that invoice a notice of insurance information, meaning general liability insurance that you have, stating the Pennsylvania AG required coverages. They have minimum coverages that you have to have in order for you to be doing business in the state of Pennsylvania. Then the next thing you got to have on there, you must have the PA contractor home improvement consumer protection registration number. Okay, that's the number that you get from the State Attorney General's office, because every contractor doing business in the state of Pennsylvania needs to have a registration number. It's not a license number, it's just a registration number with the state of Pennsylvania, okay? And that number needs to be visible as well on your invoice. Then you need to have your master plumber's license. Let's say, for example, you're from Philadelphia. You need to have the City of Philadelphia, master plumber's license number on your invoice. That's a City of Philadelphia ordinance. Okay, now you can also have other licenses, like if you're registered in New Jersey or Delaware or whatever, you could put that on your invoice as well, if you would like. Now, the invoice needs to include fine print information to address, credit card transaction processing, etc. That's so you can make sure that you're going to be able to collect and get paid. Believe me, that's really important to have on your invoice. Now, once you have addressed all of those above, so to speak, from this point on, you can personally customize. You can customize the whole rest of the invoice with, little blocks, warranty information, service agreement, yes, that type of information, model numbers, serial numbers, whatever you want. You get it, right? Okay, so that's the way it works. Now, one very, very special note that I really would be remiss if I didn't share with you, okay, because this will really take you down. There is a lot of fine print restrictions. So you think that you can just put anything you want on the front and the back of your invoice. Wrong answer. You can't do that because they're not considered, or I should say, that they are considered not consumer and user friendly. Okay? So you can't add them to your invoice. And if you do, in fact, let me tell you something. It'll put you right back into violation again. You'll be right back in violation again, and you'll be making the entire invoice null and void, trashed. Okay? Now, I know that this has been a lot of information to process. This systematic model, is what I call it, is the closest thing that you're going to get to the first step of developing a professional service invoice. And many contractors have had attorneys create their invoices. Some people just go in and buy them off of Nebs, like a standard form. Forget that. You can't have that. Okay, that's not going to work for you if you end up in court. But many contractors have had attorneys develop and create their invoices thinking that they were compliant, only because it was an attorney drafted this thing for me. Okay, and the problem with that is, however, many of them attorneys don't really have that kind of background knowledge. And if they did spend that amount of time to, even come close to getting that kind of a knowledge, by the time they finished doing it all, all the research, etc., guess what? You will have spent the time, and you would have spent thousands, hundreds and thousands of dollars, okay? Hundreds and thousands of dollars, and many of you have spent hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars with attorneys, and you're only going to go find out in the end that you're going to fall short. Okay, once you go to court up against someone who knows most of this information that I just spoke and shared with you, okay, guess what? They'll eat you up. Okay, they'll eat you alive. And the judge will just crumple up your paperwork and throw it out the window once, because you're going to be dead. You're going to be dead. You're going to be, caught dead. And you're going to be like, I thought I had all the right information because I paid this attorney to draft it for me. Wrong answer again. Okay? So, the only reason that I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just trying to explain to you. The only reason that I have this background knowledge is that many years ago, several years back, I went to the PA State Attorney General's office in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with two other friends that were contractors in the profession. And we had a private meeting with the AG's office to help amend the PA Consumer Protection Law. Now, it was there that I was able to pick their brain, okay, and get clarification that I needed to develop this information that I just laid out before you, okay? And I feel very confident that in the eyes of a reasonable judge and or jury, that they would see that we've done the very best that we possibly could have done. Matter of fact, to the best of our ability. To do what? To do our what? Due diligence. Remember them words, because that's the wording that they use in the courtroom. Okay? Now, wouldn't it really be nice if we pretty much had a done-for-you template? Okay? Like, think about that. How much would that thing be worth when you put it in perspective and think about how much it would cost you to have an attorney draft it up? That thing could be thousands of dollars. Anyway, let me keep on moving. This concludes this presentation for this evening, and I hope that you really enjoyed it. You learned something new, and you're ready to take action. Okay, lifting your business to the next level of success. Don't forget to tune in. Same time, okay, same time, 7:30 p.m. Another free session by Mars, award-winning systems tips, where we will be discussing, tomorrow is going to be having to do with compliance, law compliance, 3-day notice of cancellation, and the emergency work authorization form. Okay, so that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed it. I want to thank you all for attending, and this session is over now. Got it. Thank you very much. I'm trying to keep it within 30 minutes or less. Might run over periodically for a couple of minutes, 5, maybe even 10, but I think this time we got it kind of right on the mark. See ya. Vinny, signing out.